Hello, my name's Rachel, and I'm going to share some thoughts today about one of the passages we're looking at, which is 2 Corinthians 11, verses 12 to 15. These are really wordy verses and quite intense, and it's important to sort of understand the context in which they're written. So I had a chat with the wonderful Hebe today, and also I've been reading some of my Bible commentaries in my study Bible to just understand more about what is going on here in the church in Corinth. And if you look at verse 1 in chapter 11 and verse 2, you can see that Paul's got a deep relationship with this church, that he really cares about them, and he uses really intense language. So he talks about being jealous for them with a godly jealousy. He's got real intense emotion going on. He wants to convey something to them because he's so concerned for them. And in verse 4, he says that another gospel has been accepted by them and given by false apostles. He's really concerned that the church has accepted false teaching and accepted something that is not the pure gospel of Jesus Christ. And he talks to them very clearly about the way he lives his life in relation to money, and implies that these false apostles have got a very different perspective and attitude towards money and financial gain, and the way that they're profiting from this false teaching. And in verse 11, I wonder if the church in Corinth has forgotten how much Paul cares for them. I wonder if they've forgotten that he's invested so much freely into them, that he hasn't asked for anything back from them. And Paul's very clear in verse 12 that he's not prepared to change the way he lives in terms of money and his attitude towards money, and the way the church is to behave towards him in regards to money. And that he says that he hopes that the way he lives and not asking them for finances whilst he's sharing with them will help them to compare almost to the false apostles, and for them to realise, oh my goodness, we've been sucked into something here which isn't right. And it just made me think about our culture, attitudes towards fame and making a name for yourself, and our integrity around money, really. And it's very clear that Paul's very transparent and open and honest about the way he is living and who's funding him, the church in Macedonia, and that we know that Paul's also worked to fund himself, and he's not using the gospel as a means of lining his pockets in a dishonest way. And he's very clear about that. And it just made me think about how I manage money and how we can manage money, and that the way we live in relation to money can have an integrity all of its own, and it can expose or just shine a light, or just bring a level of honesty into a situation where other people can look in and go, gosh, they live differently, and I wonder why that might be. And it can expose deceit. And I think it's just important for us to openly give our lives and our finances back to God, and to ask him if he wants to speak to us about that in any way. I always think of honesty when I fill in my expenses sheet in work, when I think about paying taxes, those types of things. It's an honesty and an integrity before the world, if you like, in terms of the way we manage our finances. We're all works in progress, aren't we? And I love Paul's attitude and the way he writes here, because it's so strong, and it's out of a deep love and a deep care for the church. And sometimes we can hear things in the teaching that through our online teaching or in a preach or through a trusted friend, and sometimes it can be like, oh my goodness, and hit us. But it's through those things and through the Spirit of God at work in our lives that God can bring about more change and more integrity. And Paul's attitude is not what's in it for me, but it's more like, what can I give out of my love for Jesus to this church? And yeah, it's not about the money, and it's great, isn't it? So I hope my few thoughts here will be of some use. And yeah, I just pray that God will help us all as we think about Paul and his example, and also his attitude to freely give. And the gospel is a free gift to us, and yeah, as we freely give, that God will meet all of our needs. Okay, thank you. Bye.